say to you guys, it's not going to be preaching to the choir. Sometimes I think we come to stuff like this so that we can preach to the choir, right? Because it's good to know. I'm just going to tell you, if you ever crack the pages of the Missourian, which I don't suggest, but if you ever crack the pages of the Missourian, you would swear that nobody thinks the way we think. But you know what I know? I know that the majority of Americans think the way we think, right? And so more than anything, I just want to thank you all for being active in this cause. Some of you have heard me speak at different Second Amendment get-togethers and things like that. And you know that one of the things that if you've heard me talk about this before, you know that one of the things that I talk about was whenever you're dealing, that sounds almost as good as gunfire. Whenever you're dealing with politicians, okay, the easiest thing in the world for a politician to do is stand up in front of people and say, I support the Second Amendment. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've even heard Barack Hussein Obama himself say the words, I support the Second Amendment. It's real easy to say, I support the Second Amendment. But what most of them don't do is support the Second Amendment, right? Because then when you pin them down on it a little bit, and this would be something that I would just offer as an idea to all of you, right? Because all of you are probably the kind of people that are willing to be involved in the process. You're probably willing to be involved in helping people that believe the way you believe to advance, and also be involved in taking down the ones that don't believe the way we believe, right? So it's good to get to the bottom of whether or not they believe like we believe. And when you ask them, when you say, well, tell me how you stand on the Second Amendment, the easiest thing in the world that there's going to be for them to do is to say, well, I support the Second Amendment. Right? I mean, who's going to stand in front of anybody and say, no, I don't like the Second Amendment, I'm against the Second Amendment, right? It's real easy for them to say, well, yes, I support the Second Amendment. So I just want to offer you a couple of questions that you might ask as a follow-up to that, right? Where do you stand on the Second Amendment? Well, I'm in favor of the Second Amendment. Great. Tell me what that means. See, politicians don't like it when you ask questions like that, right? Oh, great, I'm glad to hear. Tell me what that means, right? A follow-up question. Tell me what that means. Well, I support the Second Amendment. Great, but tell me what that means. What does that mean? And here's what you're going to oftentimes hear from lying politicians, is you're going to hear them say, well, my family has always enjoyed hunting. Now let me ask you a question. This statement, if I say to you, my family has always enjoyed hunting, does that mean that I support, or maybe more importantly, understand the Second Amendment? No. So for those of you that have heard me speak before, you already know about this, but it's something that I think is worthy of teaching and promoting to all of our Second Amendment friends, right? And that is when you're talking to a politician about Second Amendment issues, and they obviously don't get it, or they obviously give you answers that are full of baloney, right? This is what I want to ask you to do. Don't argue with them, whatever. It's very simple to just do this, and I'm even going to have you practice with me in just a second, right? And that is to just make this sound. Right? I mean, does that, y'all feel like that's a pretty simple way to communicate what they're saying? Right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend to be a politician that doesn't know what the Second Amendment is, doesn't know the true intention of the Second Amendment. You know, one of the ways that you know that a politician does not understand the true intent of the Second Amendment is ask them how they feel about AR-15s. Right? And if they say, well, if they say that, if they say, well, then it really, wait, you're getting ahead of me, you're getting ahead of me. Participate, don't anticipate, right? But when you ask them more clarifying questions about the Second Amendment, and their answer begins with, well, you're just warming up, right? You're just clearing your throat, get ready. So let's say that you're talking to me, and you say, well, Brian, do you support the Second Amendment? And I say, well, yes, I support the Second Amendment. And you say, great. Tell me exactly what that means. Now get ready to do what I just was talking about a second ago. And I say to you, with a smile on my face, a Claire McCaskill smile, right? I say, because I've heard Claire McCaskill give this exact answer, right? And so I say to you with a Claire McCaskill smile on my face, I say, well, my family has always enjoyed hunting. To which you answer, that's good. These guys catch on pretty quick. Yeah. So, all right. So then you ask that question and they say, my family always enjoyed hunting, whatever. Or if they say, I support a